Here's how we're going to dominate the chiropractic industry with Katana BDC Chiro revenue. The first thing you have to do is establish the industry standard. And the way you do that is by having a benchmark. So imagine if you were a chiropractor and you saw that there was an industry standard report that said, this is how much revenue the average chiropractor makes. This is their PVA. This is their average number of visits to the website. This is how many reviews they have on Google. This is what % of ads get clicked on. This is what it costs per click to run an ad on Google and Facebook. Here are these different sorts of averages that we see across these different metrics. And there's a number, of course, associated for each of these key metrics. If we know that this is the standard, and let's say this is powered by Katana data, and then we ask, hey, would you like to see how you're doing and how you score? Wouldn't that be perhaps the most interesting, most authoritative piece of content that if you're a chiropractor, you would want to be able to see? So this is public data. Now, when they click, yes, I'd like to see this, then we're gonna go through OAuth, which is a one-click authentication to say, give me access to your Google Analytics. Give me access to your Facebook. You know, when you click on anything where you log in and you use the Twitter credentials or use the Google credentials, and it says, this app was not made by Facebook, but would like to have access to your insights, to your ads data, to your posts, to your email address. It's lead gen and it's the collection of all this other data, because then we can create a report where it comes to our dashboard, and this will be the Chiro revenue dashboard where we benchmark them against every one of these standards that we see here. So when we say the average PVA, what is it? Let's just say it's, give me a number, 20. Right? Mm-hmm. And let's say the average chiropractor does $500,000 a year, and we know that the average value per visit is $250, or we know that the average cost per click is $1, and we know that the average chiro has 1,200 fans on Facebook, and they have 35 web pages that are indexed by Google, and their average website load time is 5.8 seconds. You can imagine how all these different benchmarks are, and then against these same benchmarks, we're showing them how do they do, right? Now, some of the numbers they won't have. So in this case, we will ask them for additional information, and we'll say, hey, since you don't have, we'll ask them, do you have Katana already? If so, then we can grab your information. But if you don't have Katana, then can you answer some of these questions so we can calculate your score? So they give us these, and then we're able to fill in their data against the benchmark. So if the benchmark is like this, and here's the trend for every one of these metrics, then we can come in and benchmark them and say, you're actually over here. You're like this. You're 20% lower. Or, the trend on traffic to websites is like this, but you're actually doing better. Or on social media, the trend is to have 1,200 fans, and you're at 1,300 fans. And we'll be able to show when they're above or below, and then be able to give them a grade. And the beauty of a grade is that you can say, well, you're below here, that's about a C. You're doing really well here, maybe that's a B+. Maybe this is an A. Maybe this is a B-. And then we say, your overall score is a C+. That's your score, right? On this particular report. It's gonna be very hard to argue this because it's based on industry standards. It's not because we just decided to arbitrarily give them this score. It's because we said, look, here's these different components on how you benchmark against the industry. And of course, then the answer is, would you like to fix these results? Would you like to do better? Would you like to have a list of specific recommendations on how to improve any one of these items? And of course, they're going to say yes, right? And even as they're going through this, they can click on a little button to learn more, right? So why is my score a B+? Learn more. Or why is it that the average website has 35 pages indexed on Google, and over here it says you have 55? Well, why is that important? Why does this matter? And you click on this, right? So maybe this pops out into a video, and here's Tristan Parmley wearing a nice shirt, and he says, hey, the reason why this is important, and you have this, there's the standard here for the industry, and there's what you have for a number of web pages, is that the more web pages you have, the more shots on goal that you have, the more keywords that you can possibly rank on, the more juice that you can collect, so that if you want to rank in local search on migraine doctor Chico, California, then if you have web pages on migraines, then you're more likely to rank on those particular terms. So if you have web pages that are designed to rank on chiropractor Chico, California, but you're not talking about the most common conditions, then you're not even available for us to be able to get you more traffic. And so we know that the more content we have, the bigger of a footprint we have, then that also expands the number of ads that we can run. So if we run ads on car accident or back pain, but we don't have web pages on back pain, then our ads are not going to be as effective. If we just send everyone to the home page, no matter what condition they come in, whatever keyword we bid on, whatever videos we make on YouTube, but we send everyone to the home page, that doesn't give us enough variety to be able to deliver upon the expectation of what the client sees. And therefore, that's the key in search engine optimization. And that's why this particular metrics is important. So we could do this with every single one of these metrics where we explain, this is what the benchmark is in terms of the average. Maybe we even show, hey, would you like to see what the 95th percentile is? Well, the 95th percentile is 1.2 million. The 95th percentile is, 42, or it's 128 web pages, whatever it might be. So we can show what the average and what the top tier, top standard is, compare them against it, give them help along the way where we pop out to a little video that explains what it is. And then more importantly, we want to go from analysis, this is metrics, that's what the dashboard is. Everyone that thinks that they're getting analytics is really getting metrics. They're getting reports and charts and pie graphs and this kind of thing. We want to actually interpret and give them the meaning behind it, right? To benchmark it, which gives us relative value, because if you tell somebody, hey, Frank, you have 35 web pages as far as Google can tell. Is that good or bad? You're like, I don't know. I guess it depends. Or, I say, hey, Tristan, I looked at your ads and your average click-through rate is 1.2%. Is that good or bad? I don't know. Hey, we looked at your text messaging campaigns and your open rate is 6%. This is great, right? Well, it depends. If the average is 15, then 6% is not very good. So this allows people to see in the most basic level analysis, how are they doing against what we consider to be a good standard just for marketing in general, what we consider a good standard against other people in the industry. But all of this doesn't make any sense, doesn't really matter unless we can take action to be able to fix it. So the point of moving from metrics, which is the numbers, business numbers, troubleshooting numbers, to analysis, which is explaining the context behind that number and why is it important to increase our PVA? Why is it important to get other channels working? Why is it important to be on Twitter? Why is it important to be able to grow our email database? Why is it important to do email or just general patient reactivation, right? And then to be able to fix that, right? The analysis is telling you, so what? Why is this important from a business standpoint? Then we want to be able to have action. And what we want to do is make everything up to here free. Why not? It's like a free auto doctor consultation where no one has to talk to anybody. They can consume lightweight training on each of these particular metrics. It's the kind of thing that you'd expect if you came to a dashboard that was called Chiro Revenue, because we're tying your revenue accountability back to your marketing, back to your referrals, back to how you show up on Google, for example. But now, if you actually want to do something about this, this is when it gets interesting, because you've already given us this OAuth data. You've given us some survey-based data that we've asked you, because maybe we don't have Katana. Maybe you're not in Black Diamond Club. Maybe you don't know what certain terms mean. Maybe you don't have access to your WordPress or to the website backend, so we can't capture the actual data here on what the most popular web pages are, or things that we would need to see to if we had access to your site data. So now you come to this dashboard, and this is something that I've never seen done before in the industry. But I've been thinking for 20 years that this would be something very popular that other people would want to be able to mimic. So consider this. We have the benchmarks, which is where you are in any one of these metrics and where you should be to be a high performer, so that overall we can increase the revenue that you have for your practice. Because ultimately we're business owners, but most chiropractors they're good chiropractors, they're lousy marketers, and they're horrible business people, because they don't understand the business side of things, which is how to make money, right? Because they think it's about selling or whatever their idea of sales and marketing is. So if we look at their data and we look at their, as an example, their sales in November 2020. And let's say, for sake of simple math, that it was $80,000. And this is obviously a fake example, but let's say the next month, their sales in December is 100,000. Well, you'd want to know, what is it that caused us to go from 80,000 to 100,000? So it's a 20,000 increase. And this is what we call the gains and loss reporting framework. If you've seen this anywhere else, I would love to hear about it, because I think this is my idea. So gains and loss reporting is any particular metric. How do we break down what caused the number to go from here to here? So you could even say, this is the number of patients that I have. It went from A to B. This is the number of website visits that I had from here to here. This is the number of new patients I have. It went from here to here. This is the number, any kind of business metric where we're measuring a before and an after. I'm going to show you what this particular framework of gains and losses does to be able to break down the difference when you move from here to here. Wouldn't that be cool to know? Because anytime you look at a chart, you see, oh, revenue went up and down, or the PVA fluctuated over time, or any kind of metric, the amount of profit that we have, the number of visits we have, like whatever it is, any metric that's going up or down, we want to be able to figure out what is behind it. Is it because of COVID? Is it because our website doesn't work anymore? Is it like, wouldn't you like to know the underlying reason of why a particular metric is going up or down? This is the thing that we think is going to be the most powerful piece in the world of digital marketing, which is giving people real analytics that explains what's going on here. So here's what happens. You have, and this is for internal training, so this is going to be a little bit geeky if you're not an analytics person, if you're not used to dealing with marketing data, this might be a little confusing, so you might have to look some of these things up, or you might have to press pause and watch this thing again. You have two things in terms of a metrics analysis breakdown. You have your key business metric. So in this case here, it's revenue as an example, and as a company called Chiro Revenue, you'd imagine we're going to try to figure out how to get you more revenue and figure out what those different components are, right? It's like you're not being seen enough, you're not answering the phone often enough, you're not having enough messaging sequences to generate enough conversations, your doctors are not good at closing, you're not charging enough money. Like, you can see that there are stacking factors that will drive revenue, right? So there's the primary business metric, of which we believe revenue is the most important one. Obviously you want to take care of patients and you want to have a good reputation. But if we take one particular metric, we can break that down by an attribute. So an attribute is, this could be revenue, and then we're going to break it out by customers. Or we're going to break it out by number of visits. Or we're going to break it out by some other kind of factor that we want to be able to diagnose. And here's what happens to be able to get this $20,000 difference. There are four components that go into gains and losses reporting. First off, if we start with the 80, we have existing customers that are spending more because you have these other campaigns and you're offering a broader range of services. Maybe you're able to get them to come in more often. You can upsell them into something. So you have existing customers that are spending more. Then that brings you up here. Then you have existing customers that are spending less. And that brings us to here, right? So these two are existing customers. Now we take customers that we have gained, so the revenue from customers that we have gained, that takes us up here, minus the customers that we have lost. Revenue from customers that we have lost, which brings us here, which then allows us to true up these two differences. This is existing customers, this is churn, okay? So that takes us from the existing number of 80 to the final number of 100 through 1, 2, 3, and 4. You follow me on this? You can break everything down into these four particular components. Now, the beauty of this from a marketing analytics standpoint, whether you're a software company or not, is each one of these four you can create a list against. So I want a list of all these customers that have spent, existing customers that have spent more money with me. I want a list of all these customers that are spending less. I want the list of customers of all the new people that I want to tune my onboarding sequence. I want a list of customers of all the ones that we've lost so we can run a reactivation campaign against each of these. So then if I pull out each of these segments, here's segment 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a list. What do you do with the list? You have a particular campaign treatment. So campaign treatment 1, 2, 3, and campaign treatment 4. And that's what happens with smart, data-driven, trigger-driven marketing. Now, this is what we have with revenue, but we could compare your revenue for your practice versus the benchmark, right? So maybe we can, instead of this is month to month, we can say this is for the whole year, and we see that for your practice, you did 500,000, and we know that the benchmark is 1.2 million because that's where you want to be. What's the difference from here to here? We can break that down into the other metrics that we see back over here and be able to say, so remember how we said you're above and below in these particular areas? And here's how it results, and here's why each of these metrics fit together, because we know that in a revenue funnel, right, at the top, we're driving this amount of traffic at the top, right, that's coming into this funnel. We're driving traffic from ads, from organic search, from word of mouth, benevolence campaigns, right? So that's awareness. Then we're having conversations, which is consideration. We have engagement. We want to collect new phone numbers. We want to have these text messaging campaigns. We want people to come to the website and read the blog. We want people to register for a webinar, right? Or a workshop or some kind of deeper level of engagement. And then we want to be able to convert them. And if we know what the average percentages are at each of these particular points, we can stack their particular numbers here. And at the conversion stage of the funnel, we want to be able to measure how much revenue is coming in, new patients, referrals, whatnot. And the beauty is that we can say, this is where the standard is, but maybe this is where you are, your particular practice is like this, but it needs to be wider. We need to increase these conversions, or we need to increase the width of your funnel relative to the width of what the average is. And that way, when we have this kind of X-ray of your marketing, operations, and finance, we have a view of the entire business, and thus, when they get the final report card with the actions of what they need to do, we say that we have revenue at the top because obviously you want to increase the revenue number, but we're going to break it down into 3 components, and that's marketing, operations, and finance. Those are the 3 components of business. We know the marketing metrics are around traffic, around rankings, around, and we could say, you know, the same thing here, marketing, operations, finance, or actually this way, marketing, operations, finance. We can then say, well, our recommendation is, from a marketing standpoint, you need to implement this program called Team, Tell Everyone About Me. And there's 6 phases to it. Here are the different components that address the things that we determined were wrong. From an operational standpoint, you need Black Diamond Club, because we're going to teach you how to convert that marketing into sales. And this is what you do at day 1. And this is how you price things. And this is how you follow up. And this is how you position yourself. And this is how you build relationships. And this is how you're able to convert just merely being seen, because digital marketing will help you be seen, but you actually have to talk to people. You have to understand how do you sell, right? The things that Sean and Lacey teach. And finance, we're going to track it all the way to driving patient revenue. So when we know what's going on with medical billing and how often you're able to see customers and your retention and your PVA and other sorts of metrics, we can track that all the way back. And thus, this report card will break down your revenue performance into marketing, operations, and finance. And because along the way, you've told us what is going on in your business, then we can easily cross-reference, because if you've come in on Chiro revenue, then we'll say, hey, you know, your operational performance is not as good as it could be. You really should sign up for Black Diamond Club, because if you're a member of Black Diamond Club, here's what the averages look like. Now, we haven't run the averages for members of Black Diamond Club, but I would imagine it would be better than the average chiropractic, but we could see. And we could say, hey, those people with Katana, here's what the averages are that we see month to month, right? This is what we saw in November 2020. This is what we saw in December 2020. And this is what we saw in the top 95th percentile of Katana customers. Would you like to be there? Here's what the averages are. And we're not revealing the specific data of any particular chiropractor unless they want to give it as a case study. And then we reproduce the industry benchmark month after month after month. And that way everyone in the industry can see how they're doing. I don't think anybody's publishing any kind of industry numbers like this. I think Sean said maybe 2 years ago there was something that they published. So why don't we establish this industry standard as a way to be able to collect this data, as a way to give people a dashboard where we superimpose their data, tell them what's wrong, now actually give them a view into why they are leaking revenue at different points in the funnel, and show them how it relates to specific factors in marketing, operations, and finance. And with this benchmark, they can then go through courses. So we can charge for these courses, $47, make them free. And if they go through courses, then they're probably gonna come in and wanna buy packages, because then they'll realize that, wow, this stuff is really a little bit more difficult than they thought. So they might sign up for Chiro revenue. They might sign up, $100 BDC. They might sign up for different packages in Katana, that's, what is it, 700, right? And that's how we're able to sell. We sell not because we have salespeople that are giving out free gifts, but because we're relying upon the heart of analytics here. And the beauty of this dashboard is that we've already built most of it. We've already done this for a number of years, where we're displaying this data, but what we don't have as of mid-November 2020 is the integration with all the other data sources. So with Frank and Travis and everyone else's help, we want to take all these data sources and be able to pump them in here. And to be able to be the industry standard and have all these other data sources, why would anyone want to go anywhere else? Why would you want to have to log into 10 different tools to see what's going on? So with your practice, why wouldn't you want to use a free dashboard where this is all here? And you could use, there's lots of tools that will combine data from lots of different sources. You can still look at your Google Analytics, which is just your web data. You can still look at your Katana data or whatever EHR you have on the back end, but it's not going to give you a combined view. And also compare it against the industry standard, compare it against the top people in the industry, compare it against digital metrics, give you a breakdown to tell you what's going on, and be able to build campaign segments that then result in an increased ROI. Because when we start taking action, we go from metrics to analysis to action, we take action against any one of these things, we're able to go back and then run these numbers again and see the increase and then remeasure these particular buckets. And when we start with revenue increasing, so in this case it's revenue by customer bucket, but we also said it could be revenue by number of visits, or it could be number of patients by marketing channels, right? You can take any metric and you can break it down into this metrics decomposition on gains and losses. So if we know what metric we're hurting the most here, we can show just this metric as their dashboard. Of course, we want everyone to start with revenue, but every particular practice is going to have a specific combination of things they need to fix in their marketing, operations, and finance. And that's why when they see the combined package of how Katana, BDC, and Chiro revenue are working together, then they don't feel like they're working with multiple vendors. They feel like they're working with a team that is using a consistent, integrated system. And that's where I believe we have loyalty, we have retention, but it takes a lot of effort to build these kinds of things. The beauty is, I don't see other software companies or agencies trying to do this kind of integration. And we have deep relationships with the other software providers in the world of marketing and in the world of digital, and we just don't see that happening. And if it is, if someone else is doing it, we'd love to partner with them, because then we can integrate their component, integrate their data, integrate their metrics, integrate the campaigns that they have. And like Frank was saying earlier, it doesn't matter what tools are executing the campaigns. It can be, let's say for example, one of the things that we're doing is we're finding what content, so let's say this is how many visits we have to the websites. So we can take any metric by any attribute. So the number of organic visits that we get because we rank on Google in the 3-pack local, so someone types in chiropractor Fort Worth, Texas, right? And we went from 80 visits to 100 visits in Google. And then we want to break it down by content, because the more content we have, the more opportunities that we might have. And then let's say we break it into these 4 different buckets of content and we isolate the kind of content that's working the best. Maybe the campaign is simply to take our video content that's been working well on YouTube and Facebook and cross-posting it to websites. Or maybe it's taking a YouTube video and turning it into a blog post. See, this is an example of taking something that's working. In this case here, number 3 is the one that's really working for us. How do I get more out of what's already working? How do I kill things that are really hurting us, right? This number 2 in this example is hurting us. So I want to try to cut number 2, I want to try to increase number 3. And how do I do that? Through these campaigns, which really are tasks. And a task and a campaign are synonymous, because a campaign is an action that you're applying against a particular set of users. So imagine that the task was to cross-post. I'm going to take my top performing videos on YouTube, YouTube's part of Google, and I'm going to turn them into blog posts because I want to get more traffic on Google. right? This whole system, the idea of the social amplification engine is, I'm gonna take any particular metric that's working well, try to get more out of it. I'm gonna take anywhere where I'm losing and try to figure out how I'm gonna stop the bleeding. And the minute we have access to their data, we are running these campaigns directly to seek and fix against these particular metrics. We provide them an ongoing report every month, and we provide a human touch from someone who cares about them. Then we have a great relationship, and it ties together all three of these teams. And that's how we're going to dominate the chiropractor industry. And if you're watching this later, maybe you're a chiropractor and you want to help other chiropractors, or you're a potential agency or a partner that wants to work with us, I would love to hear your feedback.